This is something I grew up with. It's a pap or Rijstepap. It's kind of a warm, semi-liquid food is what they kind of describe it as. Not really a pudding because there's no egg or starch to make it into a custard, but it comes close. So again, no eggs or starch. So 2 cups of milk, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, whether pure or artificial, half a cup of white rice, quarter cup of sugar, which is optional, and then butter and cinnamon at the end for an addition. And here's the rice I'm using this time. Generally, you're going to use a white rice, either long grain or short grain. You can use Italian rice. First thing we're going to do is rinse and clean the rice. So I usually just run it 3 times under water and drain it until the water runs clear. So I give it a quick stir to make sure there's no debris or anything left over in the rice. And just drain it off and add some more water. Some people don't do this step, and that's fine, but I always want to make sure there's the extra cloudiness is gone and it's nice and clean to start with. You want the rice to start nice and clean so it can absorb the milk and the water while cooking. So I just feel it works better this way. I've never used basmati rice. I think it has a bit of too much of a nuttiness to it to have the right flavoring, but you can certainly try that. But brown rice I think takes a little bit too long to cook and absorb the milk, so I've never tried it, but you're welcome to try that as well. Now I put in the ingredients a quarter cup of sugar, so this becomes like a sweet pudding. But you can either omit the sugar or you can half it or quarter it. So you don't have to use the whole quarter cup. That's just what I'm doing for this recipe, and it gives you a fairly sweet pudding at the end. But you can also do half of that amount or just omit it altogether. And you can always add sugar as a topping at the end as well. Okay, so we're just going to transfer the rinsed rice into a medium-sized pan. And you're pretty much going to stick around for the entire time to make sure, when you're cooking milk, you don't want any boilovers and you don't want to burn it. So that's the one thing with this recipe, you kind of have to stick around for it. So there's your 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, either pure or artificial, it's fine. You could actually use vanilla bean as an option. So yeah, you start kind of on medium to medium high, and just to get it warmed up fairly quickly, because this does take about roughly 25 minutes. I kind of time the video, and that's around the time before the rice is fully cooked and most of the water content is gone. So be prepared to stick around for a bit. But you're going to end up with a fairly thick mixture at the end, kind of like a pudding, but without adding the egg or any starch. So time is kind of one of the ingredients. Right, so every maybe 30 seconds give it a stir. So medium heat to start with, and then you can reduce it down slightly. But you kind of want to maintain that simmer, or else it's going to take a really long time. So, and whatever you're using to stir it with, generally should have somewhat of a flat bottom. So kind of you're scraping the bottom of the pan, making sure nothing's sticking. So you could use a wooden spoon, this is fine, but generally a flat-bottomed spoon or tool is best. Alright, so you continually want to keep stirring, you don't want it to burn. But you want your heat to be at a decent simmer, light boil. And once in a while you can check the consistency of the rice, but it will take roughly 20 minutes for the rice to at least soften and cook. So here we're going to add the sugar. So it's important that you don't add the sugar early on, because that will just generally prolong the cooking process. So if you add it at the beginning, you can pretty much guarantee it's going to take longer. So I always add it at about the 20 minute mark roughly. Pretty much when your rice is about 90% cooked, then you want to add your sugar, okay? If you're adding sugar. So just keep stirring, and you'll see eventually it'll start thickening up. And what started as 2 cups of milk generally goes down to about a quarter cup of milk at the end. So most of it evaporates or it gets absorbed into the rice. And then after about 20 minutes, you have the option. So it depends how thick you want it at the end, but the main thing is you want to kind of taste your rice towards the end to make sure it's cooked. You don't want a crunchy rice. So here you can see after 20 minutes we're almost there, but you can see how the rice moves into, it kind of fills in the space there, but it does it really quickly. I like it when it's, you'll see in the next scene, when you do the same method, it kind of slowly fills in that gap, and that's how I can tell when it's done. Okay, so it's about 25 minutes at medium heat, and that's kind of the consistency you're looking for. So we're pretty much done. And you can see how it slowly moves in to fill the empty space. And I've reduced my heat a bit at the end as well. So you can see it's quite thick. Again, if you want it a little bit more liquidy, you can stop your cooking a little bit earlier. Now this recipe is basically one large portion or two smaller portions. So I'm going to just spread it out in a fairly large bowl, and this would be a large serving, but you can also split it into two smaller bowls. So if you want to make more of this, try it out once to start with, and if you're happy with how it turned out, you can always scale up your ingredients to make a larger batch. Okay, so I just spread it out. And I typically like cinnamon and a bit of butter on mine, but whatever toppings you choose, but cinnamon is a nice addition. And then whether you want to put unsalted or salted butter, I usually just add a little bit in the center and let it melt. But this is a really nice kind of cold weather comfort food. And then as another option, you could add a pat of butter or two, just a little bit in the center. And you just let that melt for a minute or so. So I encourage you to try this out. Stay tuned for more videos. Please subscribe, and bye for now.